like I say, let's talk to each other, Baban. Let's talk to each other.
Okay.
Maybe you should kiss me. Seems like a kiss always starts the things. Yes, so now they've started.
Really?
Hello everyone. Welcome to this wonderful episode. This is Ga-Pholushe. My name is Ga-Pholushe and this is my lovely wife.
Themakhs.
In this episode, we've got a story to tell you. It's a very mysterious story. Give it some time. You'll understand there's a lot. But at the center of it is finances and how our marriage nearly got ruined. Meaning that I considered divorcing you when a baby. You see. I spoke it with
your own mouth.
With my mouth. I spoke it to my uncle. I spoke it to my father. I spoke it to my mom. Or I can't. You see. And it wasn't because I didn't love you. It wasn't because there's another man. It was because finances, you see, were a constant topic. We were always fighting about them. So, as I say, this is a long story. We'll unpack it. But in it, we discovered quite a lot. We discovered the existence of witchcraft. We'll tell you about that. You'll understand very well what we mean. We know these
witchcraft.
things. When we say witchcraft, we know what witchcraft is. You see. And we identified a problematic upbringing, you see. And that when I'm talking, you know, it's strange how you and I are people from actually opposite
worlds.
One told. Despite Rebapedi, you're beautiful, Ga-Pholushe, I didn't realize how very different, you see, you and I were, Waban. But now, with wisdom, you know, with being able to
expose these things.
Yeah, being able to look into these problems and remembering the past again as it was, to look into the past, we identified. I came from a place where there was some financial literacy. I remember being a 10-year-old having a bank account. It was with the post office. My father worked at the post office, so he opened an account for me, and I remember having 400 rand maybe.
Imagine at that age.
As an 11-year-old, you see. But you, baby, on the other side, how were you brought up, Mutaka? You know, let's start there.
Should start there, ne?
Yeah.
Like we mentioned in our last video, I was brought up by a single parent. So that meant the upbringing was very different. There was no financial literacy to say that I will teach you how to save. We were always, my parent always, you know, got money and we had to spend. So it was always that cycle. Wahola, Raja, Wahola, Raja. And we are eating like normal people that you'd expect. But we were eating very like excessive fast food, excessive, you know, junk, you know, excessive buying of things, you know, facial diaparo. Everything was so excessive. It didn't match the standard that we were living. So the upbringing was very confusing. It was as if we were trying to hide our conditions by spending. So that created a mindset for me to say that whenever you have money, you always need to spend it.
And this came to shock me initially when I'm talking. I remember whenever I would go out and hustle, let's say I just sold a PlayStation, and I just made my 500 Rand profit. Before I met you, and in the early days while I was getting to know you and you are my girlfriend, I had a habit of saving absolutely everything. I get, and only keeping chelete ya taxi to get back home and shelter taxi to allow me to go meet the next client. Fela, that was the only money I ever had on me. And I remember a moment that shocked me for the first time was when I was out hustling. And then you call me up and you're like, baby, kopela untlelele cake. I'm like, but is it your birthday?
Yeah. And I think you did even ask me that. And I was like, no, it's not my birthday. Kinyaka cake. I'm craving a cake. And that was because, like I say, my mom or my parents, you would randomly just buy cake whenever they felt that they're craving cake. We didn't have occasions where we would buy cake. And we're not saying that it's a problem to buy a cake, but whenever these things become excessively in your life, then they reflect deeper problems.
Yes.
Understand? So for me, with my upbringing, it was like that. And now I had imposed that upbringing to you as my boyfriend because I expected you to do those things for me.
And now it was an opposing financial literacy. It was a financial illiteracy. Yeah,
exactly
that.
that.
We were not trying to be mean. It was an illiteracy now coming against literacy. But we continued, we got married, and then things really started to go down because what had started out as kopela cake, by that time we had gone through a period where you got a job. Then in the job, in the small salary that you were receiving, the problems showed up. Surprising, even from the second month you were working, your salary would not be available at the end of the month to keep you going at taxi. And I constantly had to subsidize, constantly subsidize. You see? And from month number 2, you never ever got it right. It was like
Never.
From whatever job you left and whichever one you went to, the salaries were always slightly better. You had that fortune, you had that blessing, of going from like salary of 4.5
to 5
to 5 to
6,
7.
Hey.
I realized that no matter what job you got and how much you got, I was constantly subsidizing you. And when we got married, you see, I had seen these problems, and you had gone to rehab. Because of what was explained by a psychiatrist there, it to be compulsive spending disorder. You see, it's like a therapy, for
in these days
people
they
who
call
suffer trauma.
Yeah.
You see, it's retail therapy.
Yeah,
it's a
that's
real
how they
thing. So
define it.
when a person goes out and spends, so by the time we got married, that
had now gone extreme.
had become very, very extreme now. And but we got married when I paid work.
Despite all that,
loving you when I'm talk. And God blessed us and allowed us to have some some decent amount of money to settle. And that's where I saw an opportunity to say, hey, I've got a decent amount of money for you to recover from rehabilitation, find your feet from the addiction, assess what was spoken about in rehabilitation, learn more about it on YouTube, chill, let me pursue now a business that'll put me away from the hustling that I was doing. So when I saw that opportunity to run forward, you now suddenly come
Run
out
backwards.
wantol. Ke bona jwanong re setse ra chaisana jwanong wantol.
No longer the same people.
Wa bona ra chaisana. I want to invest. I want to buy this piece of tech. You know, I want to buy this software. You know, I want to buy these settings. And then you, from the corner of my eye, I see where I expected you to chill and give me time. I'm actually noticing that you are busy as well.
I always had an itch, guys, like he says. I always had an itch of wanting to buy. Because later on we'll explain, it was like I was numbing a pain that was always, suffocating me. So whenever I would have money, I saw it as an opportunity to go now, find air, by retail therapy. They define it these days. It's called retail therapy. But the consequences of those things, they are very deep. Because whenever you feel good, it was as if whenever I see money, I have a need now to go buy something. It was exactly like that. Whenever I would see money, I had a need to go buy something.
And that was so problematic from the beginning, almost like from the time you moved in Koliting, because being a hustler, I always kept stashes of cash I get in my drawer. And you always knew where the cash was. So you knew how much you could ask for and how much can be granted. So you saw it there. It's on my savings account. And so you seeing it and you wanting to spend it, it was like you petrol finding a fire.
Yeah. It was quite difficult, I think I have to appreciate you, Anabewak, for being very patient to that extent, because as much as we could say that there were deeper problems to these kind of things, but you can just imagine a person who works hard as an individual like that, as a man, you want to build your own future, a future together. And when you start to realize and see, it's okay, here our goals and our visions are not aligned. And you still remain to say that, but then let's just be hopeful. We should really embrace that and say, I'm really thankful for you, Anapiwaka, for doing that. Because it's quite deep as we're going to unfold it.
So, Anapib, a lot of people get into this kind of mess without really knowing what it's called, So let's define it well. The issues that you got into and that you faced, all of these problems, they became a lifestyle. Elongor on TV is readily acceptable.
Yes.
You see, so you don't really see what is a wrong upbringing, what is a wrong mindset. You don't see it as wrong when you see TV
and on
approving
the internet,
it.
yes.
You see, you've got a show approving people's mental
illnesses. To say that, yes, like retail therapy. Every girl now would be saying, I need some time for retail therapy. It's retail therapy season. But if you were to go ask psychologists and people who deal with the brain, they will tell you that something that retail therapy it's something
It's a
that is
cover-up.
Yeah, it's a cover up. It's a mask that you put on for your deep problems that you're suffering from. And to really go deep into that, to say ukuthi ntho tse di thomile kae, you know, like I grew up in a family where kidding a gang in my family. So there is something that is called satanic ritual abuse, which is deliberate abuse that is being done on kids or individuals, so to keep them in darkness. Ulabona? So when I got raped and I never got the chance to be counseled or seek help or to be helped, I now started finding kitlaring pleasure, you know, or covering up the pain that I was going through by spending, by eating, you know, fast food, by indulging in things that made me feel better, because I could for a moment feel like I'm valid. I needed some validation, you know. So those are the kind of problems that we go through. Not only witchcraft, as well as you know, like you say that you grew up in a family where you were taught to save as early as 11. You know, I was never, you know, in a space where I could see a person saving chele. Then never happened. Where I grew up, it was always that
Okay. So the abuse, ne? We later came to understand that there was witchcraft being performed in order to exacerbate these things. We're not saying that you had spending demons when you were not in charge. There's a lifestyle that you conscientized and you wanted to see yourself living. That's you personally. And then there was actual witchcraft in which people will think this is nuts.
Hey guys.
But this is exactly how it happened.
Exactly.
One day, a demon spoke when I was praying for you right here. And that demon said that the reason why you like to take and spend. It said, it spoke as pedi, said, lebaka leo o nang le letsogo. Those who speak Sepedi will know that what that means is that you have a thieving hand. Letsogo is just simply that. It's a definition of, it's the word describing a hand. But when we say motho o na le letsogo, obviously having a hand, it means that you're implying that their obvious hand is, you know, more than that. It's a stealing hand. So that spirit said that. It said that the reason why o na le letsogo is because ba o timme dijo o sa le ngwana or o te phandele, and that was the time when you were taken into Komagaeng to go be lethwasana. You see, so it seems like there was somebody with spiritual understanding
of where my destiny is going.
Yes, of how to plant these things so that they become your destiny, from early on. So now, over time, then we got to see her and understand that, okay, there is more happening here. Because if you guys want us to do another episode on this particular night about these events that I'm telling you about, we will do that. But let me further elaborate the witchcraft that we're talking about. This spirit, this demon, spoke that it is a snake. And it spoke that the reason why you have a hand that likes to take money is because you were denied into a food. You were deprived of food during that time when it was being done deliberately. Like it. And now, after I've prayed for this demon to leave you, Anna babe, the following day, you still didn't feel well. And so I prayed for you again. The next day, what spoke said that it is a Ga-Pholushe.
Yeah, that's what him.
And because when these things are happening, so this is a deliverance. This is when you are praying because you understand that there's a presence, there's a demonic presence. It is in the house. It has become exposed by the power of the Holy Spirit. These things, they work. You just chill if you don't believe. Just listen to us. So this was a deliverance. So pretty much you're on the floor. You're screaming. You're wiggling like a snake. One tall. And that first spirit says what it says. The following day, it's again on the floor, praying. You're vomiting, convulsing, and all of these things. And another voice, you start to speak with another voice now when these things are now speaking. And when you speak on the second day, this second spirit says, Utigolosh. And when I question this thing as to why it is around lurking, it spoke that it is here living in our marriage, sent in order to listen and observe our relationship in order to destroy it. And when you inquire who sent you, you do get a reply. But we'll talk about that some other time if needs be, you see. So here now we have direct understanding, direct experience
Of the supernatural.
The root of actual problems, where problems come from.
Exactly.
You see, that together with a mindset, an upbringing.
An upbringing, yes.
And that together with an attitude, unfortunately, Instagram, there's no other definition for it. Instagram is defined by exactly, the selling of this lifestyle.
Yes,
you see, that is so destructive, so very destructive. And Mthok, it nearly destroyed our marriage because I needing to focus very, very hard on the work that I'm doing. You see, it became very distracting because
I can imagine, because it's as if you're getting pulled back, Whatever was happening, it was serving its purpose indeed. It was really clashing with our destiny.
Fighting our destiny.
Fighting, not even clashing. Fighting our destiny, pulling it backwards. Because you never got the opportunity to really concentrate and focus on building our family as the provider. You always had to now look after me as if
to security guard you.
Exactly.
Yeah, it was very distracting because, man, when we got married and we had the good grace to relax like that, I thought that you would be still and I would work. But whenever you were moving like stowed child, like you said, like you described, oh my word.
There was another thing, guys, because at some point, whenever we would have an argument, kamuntlong, or a fight, I would straight up take out our cards and walk away, go book in a hotel and start swiping. That's how excessive this thing became.
And then you'd come back apologizing. Wantola, you going out and spending like, let me just describe it. It wouldn't be like you walking out, Real Housewife style. No, it would be like a mess. Wantola, we would fight about something. And then the fight would escalate and escalate and escalate
Break
and escalate.
things in the house sometimes.
Things would get broken in the house, Wantol. And then it's such a noise, you are afraid that, you might find yourself arrested if you continue to try to engage with your wife, So you ultimately, I decide that, let me let you go, Wantol. Let me let you go, walk out so that the noise can cease, you see. And then as you head out, getting into a lift, getting into an Uber, going straight to the shop, it was really, really devastating. And such a thing happened like, how many times, babe?
Probably 3 or 4 times.
3 or 4 times. And in one of the occasions, you were pregnant, you left the home, and you nearly and you took pills. You attempted suicide.
While I was still pregnant.
At the hotel.
And then I called you and I told you that I had taken pills.
Who took you out of there?
No, I think because I called you, and I also called our parents. And then they rushed off. They called an ambulance. They also called the motel where I was at.
Yes.
Then they rushed an ambulance.
And what sucks about that incident is that there were so many of these things happening in such a short time. I really was constantly trying to forget them and put them aside, because I really knew that there's something supernatural that wants to bind my mind to what is happening in the present, so that I don't focus on the future. So as we speak about these things, I remember so many other details that I've allowed myself to forget. In line with trying to forgive, you need to exercise forgetting certain things for your whatever helps you. I'm not saying or forget that somebody is a thief. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying you have to have. But anyway, without digressing, I remember that I tracked your phone, I think, to the motel. And then I went to the motel and I inquired with the staff and I said, I can see a location here. Wantol. Ne? And I saw also a payment notification. So I went there and I inquired, said, there's a young lady in here. Ne? She's my wife. She's pregnant, you see. She's emotionally unstable with pregnancy and some problems that we know that we have. And I asked them, I said, please, I need you to put me in contact with her. I'm not an abuser. She's not running away because I'm a problem. You see, we have misunderstandings. This has happened before. I need your help because in the past, this thing, as it has happened this way, it always
Happens
ends
the same
way, and it ends up in a suicide attempt. And those ladies, baby, they didn't listen to me.
I remember.
They didn't listen to me. And I even went to the police station to go and ask. They said I should go and speak to the police officer, the lady who deals with social, and marital problems and whatever. I went there. I spoke to them. I said, my wife could potentially commit suicide. I need your help. I need your intervention. I know how this is going to go. And they never listened. And when I heard your mom calling, saying that you've taken pills and there's an ambulance, I was like, oh, how does this keep on happening? But we wanna be. I think for us to share these things well, we are already having a small community that is engaging with us and speaking with us. I think we should leave it to them if they'd like to
Hear more of it.
hear more of this in very defined segments.
Yeah.
You see, because there's a lot that was happening. You see, there's a lot to say about the childhood upbringing and the mentality. More details about how you were actually living. For those who are perhaps living that way, to identify it while it's still now. There's the understanding of how witchcraft is performed on people.
Yes.
Why you should not fear it.
And also have an understanding that we are spirits more than we are flesh.
Yes, to have an understanding that we are spirits more than we are flesh, and a lot of what is happening comes from the spirit.
The spirit, yes.
You will understand it when you understand it. When you understand it, you won't understand it. But please listen. You see, we can delve a lot into that. We can talk a lot about the attitude. The spirit of this. Of the current times, man, the spirit of consumption, of excess, of indulgence, in philosophy it's called hedonism, in the Bible, the Bible speaks that in the last days people will be lovers of themselves. So it's the spirit of the last days. It's a cultural thing, it has a name, it goes by phrases, YOLO. Sabawelling, slaying, all of these things. We can delve deep into explaining that as well, but I think we should
cut it here for today. Ne?
Cut it here for today, Wenapewaka, and we definitely survived this thing by knowing these areas and us finally having a discussion, my baby. I remember having to confront and tell you that, baby, I genuinely feel and believe that I am getting used to the idea of leaving you. So I need you to get your act together because I love you very much. Baban. You see. So let me not meander. If you've watched this video so far, click the like button. Subscribe if you're new. Catch up on our videos from episode 1. We'd like for you to know and understand us so far. Our things are really deep. They're very complicated.
But they're inspiring and motivating.
We definitely hope that they are. We hope to speak to you in further videos, based on what you are requesting, because we want to still speak and engage with people as we go into this fourth industrial revolution, metaverse, immersive experience world. We still want to be close to people because we are people, we are children of God, and we love those who comment, who say they love us so much. We love you too.
Yes, guys, and keep the comments coming. Engage with us, ask us questions, if you are relating to some of the things, and you also need to figure out your life and your relationship, whether you're married, planning to get married. You can engage with us, guys. We are living a life that is, the world is full of a noise. So, be very spiritual, lower the noise level so that you can understand gore dinoga tse tsamayang ka motseng wa hao ke tse jwang, ke tse feng.
Listen, make sure that you can hear your voice, more than the voice of the people who are shouting around you.
Yes.
That's a very small way to explain spirituality. Yeah, yeah, we can dive into that quite a lot. But yeah, we thank
love you guys
so much. We'll see you next time.
Peace.